Good morning. I hope we are all awake. Welcome to Heritage Universalist Unitarian Church. My name is Kathy Wade, and as a member of the worship committee, it's my privilege to welcome you. To everything, there is a season. And though it may seem hard to believe, we're just a few days from the official first day of fall. This week, change is in the air. We meet virtually today, but next week we'll be outdoors again at Heritage, where we can enjoy firsthand the beauty of the season, and the forecast predicts some crisp fall air. And by the way, next week's service will be a special all ages service led by Lacey Lee Adams with help from Reverend Bill. So please plan to bring the whole family. I want to extend a special welcome to anyone visiting Heritage for the first time. We hope you'll take some time to sign our guest book. I'll put the link in the chat in a few minutes. If you'd like a member of our Board of Trustees to connect with you, just leave an email address or a phone number in our guest book. And do come back. Each service offers the long traditions of the UU faith. We are a welcoming community. If you want to know more about us, our website address is huuc.net. And speaking of our website, we want you to know that portions of today's service are being recorded and will be available on our website later in the week as part of our goal of making worship accessible to all and widening our circle. No need to worry about being photographed. And of course, our candles of community and our community time will never be recorded. And now Reverend Bill will lead us in the call to worship.
The call to worship today is adapted from our traditional in-gathering Sunday reading by Patricia Shatee. You and I and all of us blew about with the winds of summer, following the sun in different ways of freedom and play, finding rest in the cool stillness of shade, moving to the slow heat-struck rhythms which turned the long hours of summer light. Now we come together on the bridge of autumn, with summer fading backward into memory and winter waiting in snowy brilliance. Here, in this transitional time, we need one another for sharing, for comfort, for the reassurance that is community. We need one another for we are that special community we call Heritage, a community of all ages and stages that sings its songs, tells its stories, honors its traditions, and always strives and searches, living and learning and loving together. So come, let us worship together. Wasn't it great for those of you who were with us at Heritage Church last Sunday to hear our actual church bell being rung live and in person once again? I'm sitting here right now looking out at the patio at Heritage where we gathered last week and will gather again next Sunday. It's remarkable how such traditions, such regular routines of our lives that we once took for granted, we've developed a new appreciation for since those routines and traditions have been disrupted by the pandemic. We are perhaps more aware of loss now than we have been at most times in our lives. Like Unitarian Universalist churches and all other houses of worship, we have felt a sense of loss, and we have done our best to adapt to the times. This has included new ways of making music and new ways of singing together while apart. Another of our cherished traditions is our congregational covenant. I invite you, wherever you are this morning, this moment, to say it along with me. The words will appear on your screen. By this covenant, we affirm that love is the spirit of this church, the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God.
Thank you, Mimi, for that beautiful music. The first reading is from the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verses 1 through 8. For everything, there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which has been planted, a time to kill, and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace.
Hello everyone. I am coming to you from a different moment in time and space. That is to say, I recorded this video yesterday after our day of grounds beautification. So next time that you're on the grounds, you'll see that some things have changed. And we're actually going to hear about some of those changes later on in today's service. So keep your ears out for more information about that. So today we're talking about seasons and what seasons teach all of us. I thought that the best way to teach about seasons is to start thinking about the science of seasons. So each day, the Earth rotates on its own axis. One rotation of the Earth around its own axis is a day. Now, the way that we make seasons, though, is that the Earth rotates all around the sun. Next to me, here on the screen, you'll actually see a graphic that teaches us some about the rotation of the Earth around the sun that makes seasons. Here's a funny fact that you might not have known, and I didn't know when I first started to read about this. The whole reason that we have seasons the way we do is actually not just because we rotate around the sun, but that the Earth is tilted a little. 23.4 degrees to be exact. Well, that tilt on our axis means that as we rotate around the sun, look at the graph next to me, right? Some parts of the Earth are closer to the sun than others. And that's why we get lengthening days and shortening nights, because of the tilt, because of how we're tilted. So, I want you to do something with me. Grab a piece of paper, draw a line down and across that will make 4 squares on your piece of paper. On the top square, put the fall, then the winter, the spring, and the summer. First thing I want you to do is draw a leaf in each of these 4 squares. What does a leaf look like in fall? What color is it? Is it growing or is it shrinking? Do that for all of the seasons. Just start off with your leaf. What does this teach us? What does thinking about a leaf teach us? Well, the first thing that we learn is that leaves and seasons are constantly changing. Change is a part of life. As long as we're moving, we're changing. That's true for the Earth, and it's true for us. But there are other things too. Each season has something to teach us. Each season is marked by something. Spring is a time of growing, bubbling up, of changing, of greater growth, of new growth, of rain. Summer it gets hot, so things can really ramp up and grow. Winter is a time when things get cold and are shrinking, are in the dark. We have more dark. We experience longer nights during the winter. And then, which one am I missing? Fall. Fall is a time of change, where the green of summer starts to turn other colors and starts to come back to the ground in preparation for winter. Each season has something to teach us, and teaches us that each of those parts of a season are important for all of us. It's important that we have times where we are growing and changing, that we are bubbling up, where we are experiencing new things. There is also important times for us to rest. There are times that we need to get worked up and hot like in the summer, but there are also times when we need to cool down and find our sort of calm. Each season has something to teach us. So in the other parts of your square, I want for you to think about, what does a season teach you? What do we experience in a season? And what might that mean for you?
Good morning, everyone. Our service today is asking us to reflect on the seasons, on tradition, and on change and adaptation. And the heritage tradition of sharing our abundance has gone through multiple adaptations over the years. Prior to 2006, the contents of our offering was always simply an extra donation to the church. But in 2006, we began to donate one offering each month to a nonprofit, and then twice each month in 2009. And then finally in 2017, we moved to making it a weekly outreach to serve our community and our world. We knew together we could make a difference. And that is the basis of the mission of today's recipient, Together Rising. Their mission states, Together Rising transforms collective heartbreak into effective action. They support families, individuals, and organizations through direct grants of funds or goods. Current work includes ongoing support in hurricane and earthquake affected areas, providing support to Afghan refugees, and providing domestic and international support to those affected by COVID-19. This includes everything from helping families buy groceries to sending oxygen concentrators to India and to providing training for direct care providers in the Navajo Nation. In addition to these types of large-scale endeavors, families and individuals can apply for help. A recent example is a young mother diagnosed with laryngeal cancer while she was pregnant. A grant from Together Rising helped her cover her travel and treatment and housing costs, as well as supplies such as diapers and formula for her newborn. This financial support during the first few months of her newborn's life allowed her time to heal and bond and care for her new baby. Together Rising has already a dedicated group of funders that cover all of their administrative costs. So 100% of donations from individuals goes to fulfilling their mission. You can donate online at togetherrising.org. That link is in chat today. And you can also find that link all this week on our own church homepage at huuc.net. As always, I thank you for your generosity and your support of our outreach.
Please join me now in a spirit of prayer and reverence. This prayer for the season is from Rabbi Jack Reimer. Now is the time for turning. The leaves are beginning to turn from green to red and orange. The birds are beginning to turn again, heading once more toward the south. The animals are beginning to turn to storing their food for the winter. For leaves, for birds, for animals, turning comes instinctively. But for us, turning does not come so easily. It takes an act of will for us to make a turn. It means breaking with old habits. It means admitting that we have been wrong. It means starting all over again. It means recognizing that we have the ability to change. O God of change and compassion, help us to turn from callousness to compassion, from hostility to love, from pettiness to purpose, from envy to contentment, from fear to faith. Turn us around, O God. Now is the time. Turn us around and revive our lives as at the beginning. Turn us around toward you and toward each other. Shalom and amen. Let us be together now for a moment more in a time of silence. May we ever and always honor the spirit of life in each and in all. Amen.
O God of stars and sunlight, whose wind lifts up a bird, in marching wave and leaf fall we hear thy patient word. The color of thy seasons goes gold across the land. By green upon the tree tops we know thy moving hand. O God of cloud and mountain, whose reign on rock is art, thy plan and care and meaning renew the head and heart. Thy word and color spoken, thy summer noons and showers, by these and by thy day shine we know thy world is ours. O God of root and shading, of boughs above our head, we breathe in thy long breathing, our spirit spirited. We walk beneath thy blessings, thy season and thy way. O God of stars and sunlight, O God of night and day.
This poem by Kathleen Rain is titled Change. Change, said the sun to the moon. You cannot stay. Change, says the moon to the waters. All is flowing. Change, says the field to the grass. Seed time and harvest, chaff and grain. You must change, says the worm to the bud. though not to a rose. Petals fade that wings may rise, borne on the wind. You are changing, said death to the maiden, your wan face to memory, to beauty. Are you ready to change, asks the mind to the heart, ready to let her pass all your life long, for the unknown, the unborn, in the alchemy of the world's dream? You will change, say the stars to the sun, says the night to the stars.
Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us. Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us. Sweet the angling sun, sweet upon the air, the smell of bloom is rising. Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us. Glorious the trees, glorious the sight of rust leaves falling, falling. Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us.
Autumn cold has turned the star wheel, winter is upon us. Autumn cold has turned the star wheel, winter is upon us. Gray the windy storms, cold upon our cheeks, the wet rain glistens, glistens. Autumn cold has turned the star wheel, winter is upon us. Leaping is the fire, golden in the glass, the cider glows like amber. Autumn cold has turned the star wheel, winter is upon us.
Winter rains have turned the star wheel, springtime is upon us. Winter rains have turned the star wheel, springtime is upon us. Sharp the smell of loam bursting in our eyes, the turrets of the tulip. Winter rains have turned the star wheel, springtime is upon us. Greening is the grass, soft upon the brows of dawnlight warm caresses. Winter rains have turned the star wheel, springtime is upon us.
Vernal clouds have turned the star wheel, summer is upon us. Vernal clouds have turned the star wheel, summer is upon us. Gliding are the hawks, hovering above the hot and yellow hillside. Vernal clouds have turned the star wheel, summer is upon us. Crickets in the night, chirping in our ears, the sound of moonlit music. Vernal clouds have turned the star wheel, summer is upon us.
Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us. Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us. Sweet the angling sun, sweet upon the air, the smell of bloom is rising. Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us. Glorious the trees, glorious the sight of rust leaves falling, falling. Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us.
And so we gather today on the cusp of autumn. We gather virtually, of course, but still we gather. Last Sunday, many of us gathered together in person, and will again next Sunday. But we gather today, this day, while like every other day of our lives, the star wheel continues turning. It turns now to the season that most vividly mixes the sublime power and paradox of beauty and grief, love and loss, joy and sorrow. We anticipate the radiant cacophony of color of the fall leaves, just days or weeks around the corner. And we remember the first glorious green of those same leaves just a few months ago. For everything, there is a season. For many of us, when we think of fall, we think of leaves. Robert Frost's poignant and painful poem, Nothing Gold Can Stay, sums up the power of the season that is upon us in just a few short lines. Nature's first green is gold, her hardest hue to hold. Her early leaf's a flower, but only so an hour. Then leaf subsides to leaf, so Eden sank to grief. So dawn goes down to day, nothing gold can stay. Perhaps this timeless truth is why we love the leaves of fall so much. Perhaps it is also why so many of us are fond of evergreen trees, those hardier or at least differently constituted arboreal reminders, because they seem to buck the trend. They seem to fight against the inevitable turning. Even on the shortest days of the year, even with the least sunlight, even amid the snows of winter that are now drawing ever more near this year, they assure us that spring and green will return once again, for the star wheel is turning. Yesterday, on the edge of the property that last week we reclaimed as holy ground, the beloved place we call home, Heritage Church, yesterday on the final weekend of summer, we began a day of tending to our grounds and our gardens with a somber ceremony that spoke of another aspect of the turning of the wheel. It reminded us that even evergreens will not always remain green. Soon after our current church building opened in 1985, 3 evergreen trees were planted near the northwest corner of our land, put there to serve as stately sentinels at the entrance to our new sanctuary. They flourished, as did our congregation, and were soon dubbed the Three Sisters, in honor of 3 church matriarchs, 3 senior members of the Clara Barton Guild, our women's sisterhood: Clara Hassemeyer, Alma Weiner, and Elsa Waterman. Let us remember their names. The 3 evergreens grew, and as they did, several older church members who had been with us since the time we were known as First Universalist Church eventually passed away, and the area around those trees became our first memorial garden at our new location. Bob and Meredith Vickers' ashes are buried there, and others have been scattered under those beloved trees as well. In time, one of the 3 sisters' trees itself died, the victim of a bagworm infestation, but the other 2 thrived so much and grew so tall and brilliant green that 5 years ago, they won the very first Great Tree Award given out by Anderson Township. I remember how proud the late Connie Booth was when our trees were honored by the township, and not just because they were technically Colorado blue spruces. Connie was, after all, a native of, as she and other natives of the state pronounce it, Colorado. You see, Connie was a horticulturalist, a master gardener, a person in tune more so than most of us with the rhythms of nature, with the greening and goldening and graying of plants, with the turning of the star wheel. And so she simply loved that the evergreens you see on your screen right now, those stately remaining 2 sisters, had been chosen for recognition as some of the greatest trees in Anderson Township. But trees, like people, like all things in the turning of the star wheel, are granted only a limited time offer in this life. Not long after we received the Great Tree Award and put that sign at their base, our 2 award-winning trees developed a fatal fungus called needle cast, the result of a particularly wet spring. The disease causes evergreens to lose their needles and slowly die. We have known for a while now that our remaining 2 sisters were not long for this world. For everything, there is a season. And so it was that yesterday, this is how those trees looked. And we held a short memorial service for them. We honored their history, remembered their glory, acknowledged the hard truth that nothing gold can stay. And then we cut them down. For everything, there is a season. Other trees will take their place and grow and thrive, just as other people will join this church. Other people will walk this earth. Other people will live their lives, will experience their loves and their losses long after each of us is gone. Such is the wheel. Such is the turning of the seasons. Now, before I continue my reflection, I'd like us to take a break, an interlude, a pause to catch our breath. I've invited our music director, Les Tacey, to sing a song from our hymnal, a hymn that muses on the very subject we are considering today.
Number 350, The Ceaseless Flow of Endless Time. It's an African-American spiritual tune, but the lyrics are by John Andrew Story. The theme is simple. You can't go back in time. Live in the present moment. Learn from the past and hope for the future. Number 350, The Ceaseless Flow of Endless Time. The ceaseless flow of endless time, no one can check or stay. We'll view the past with no regret, nor future with dismay. The present slips into the past, and dream-like melts away. The breaking of tomorrow's dawn begins anew today. The past and future ever meet, and the eternal now, to make each day a thing complete, shall be our new year now.
We live within a ceaseless flow of endless time. And so we create, in our very human way, milestones and markers to make sense of that flow. Rituals and traditions that predate even what we think of as history, which of course is itself yet another human invention to help us make meaning of our existence. This time of year, this time when In our northern hemisphere, where the majority of Homo sapiens live, this time of year is considered the new year in many traditional and indigenous cultures and religions, associated as it is with the end of the season of growing, associated as it is with the beginning of the harvest. This season marks the end of one turn of the wheel and thus the beginning of the next, the ceaseless flow of endless time. Our ancestors, by living in harmony with the natural cycle of birth, growth, flowering, decline, death, and eventual rebirth, and later by learning to measure the apparent movements of stars, the sun, and the moon, our ancestors developed a sense of the great mystery of life unfolding in predictable seasons, which could best be understood as an annual cycle. Last month, Muslims celebrated their New Year, and earlier this month was the Jewish New Year. Next month, pagan and earth-centered traditions mark the end of one year and the beginning of another. Later this very week, the fall equinox denotes the exact moment when the Earth is closest to the sun in its annual orbit, the time when day and night are of equal length. Equinox is, after all, in Latin, equal night. Summertime has turned the star wheel. Autumn is upon us. Rabbi Jack Reimer reminds us in the prayer I shared earlier that for leaves, for birds, for animals, turning comes instinctively, but not so much for us. We human beings must create rituals to call us back to our more instinctive selves, that deeper place which in our ancestors just somehow knew that this time of year was special, that it warranted us pausing, reflecting, remembering. And that is what we do at this time of year, even now. That is what we do this morning. We come to pause and to reflect on the passage of time, to remember and honor the cycles and the seasons of our earth and of our lives. We come to pause and reflect on growth and change, on decline and death, on love and loss. Stephen Jenkinson tells us that love and loss are two sides of the same coin. We love more powerfully, knowing that we shall ultimately lose what we love. We grieve our losses so intensely, precisely because we have loved. This is that time of year when many of us feel this truth most deeply. We feel it in our bones. If you arrived here in Zoom land early enough today to hear the prelude song, the Grammy Award-winning Wake Me Up When September Ends, perhaps you felt it then. I know I do every time I hear that song, written by Billy Joe Armstrong about the death in September of his father when Billy Joe was just 10 years old. We hear it too in the poem Change by Kathleen Rain that Kathy shared a moment ago. We hear it in the familiar words of Ecclesiastes and in Robert Frost's Nothing Gold Can Stay. This season of incredible beauty, this time of turning, is our annual reminder of the great paradox that, as the Greek philosopher Heraclitus put it, change alone is unchanging. The change we see and feel all around us in the world is also reflected here in our beloved church community. We have returned, albeit still only every other week, to worshiping at Heritage, outdoors for now. And in other ways, we have also begun reclaiming that sacred outdoor space. There were nearly 24 of us, ranging in age from a year to 80 years, putting in an incredible amount of work yesterday on a hot and humid mid-September day, weeding and pruning and raking and clearing trails in the woods and gardening and uncovering long forgotten memorial stones. And yes, cutting down our once stately spruce trees. For the earth is ever turning. Our grounds are ever changing. And who we are is changing too. As individuals, we constantly change. As a church, we constantly change. Last week, we welcomed 7 new members into the congregation, but roughly an equal number have moved away from Cincinnati this summer or will be moving away this fall. In our wider society, this is very much a transitional time. We are still in a pandemic, trying to figure out how to live in that reality. And in our families, in this community, it is also a transitional time. Folks are changing jobs and residences. Young people are moving away. More than one nest in our congregation has become empty this season. For me, I know there's a bit of a hole in my heart right now, as I know that other families among us share that feeling as some of our young people spread their wings and fly. But that's the thing. For everything, there is a season. September is simply the month that really brings that truth home. And so perhaps as at no other time of year, these days when summertime has turned the star wheel and autumn is upon us, when a new cycle is beginning and change is quite literally in the air. In these times, we find comfort and reassurance in cherished rituals of fall. We find connection in beloved community. We are reminded of just what a blessing it is to be part of this historic home we call heritage. For the 194th time, fall begins for this congregation. Let us revel in it. Let us cherish one another and the great gift with which we are for a time entrusted, the gift that is life, the gift of life right here in this church community with each other. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. Our closing words this morning are from the renowned 20th century poet and philosopher Tagore. And after all, is it beyond thee to be glad with the gladness of life's rhythm? To be tossed and lost and broken in the whirl of its fearful joy? All things rush on. They stop not. They look not behind. No power can hold them back. They rush on. They step with that restless, rapid music, and seasons come dancing and pass away. Colors, tunes, and perfumes pour in endless cascades in the abounding joy that scatters and gives up and dies in every moment. So may it be, dear ones, and so let us be glad in the gladness of life's rhythm. Amen. Please join me now as we say together our Heritage Church benediction. It is a call and response, and so now would be a good time to unmute yourselves. May the Spirit of life
May the Spirit of life
that each of us possesses
that each of us possesses
flow from one to the other.
flow from one to the other.
May it stay with us,
May it stay with us,
bring us peace and harmony
bring us peace and harmony
until we meet again.
until we meet again.
Amen.
Namaste.
Mhm.
All right. We
We're really glad that you joined us at Heritage this morning for this transitional time. In a few minutes, Danny will invite each of you to join a small group breakout room for community time. We'd love to have you stick around for this opportunity to visit with other members of the community. It will last about 15 minutes, during which time you can catch up with folks you haven't seen in a while, at least in person, or maybe make a new friend. Of course, you can leave the service now or whenever you need to during community time. Thanks so much for being here with us to celebrate the fall. And happy fall to you all.